Namaste. Well, I want to talk about our journey. One day the journey begins. And at first, the allegory of a journey that from here to there is the first thing that comes to mind, one step at a time, and we're climbing a mountain, and we have a goal of enlightenment or awakening. And this is the rudimentary level. It is a level, but it's not very deep, and you start to learn that there's nowhere to go. The journey is within. So journey still works, spiritual journey, but the journey is within. You don't need to go anywhere. You're already here. So I wanted to start off by talking about one of my favorite people, that Adyashanti, that helped me along the way. He talked about abiding awakening and non-abiding. For abiding awakening, I use permanent, and for non-abiding, I use temporary. But I like his language better, so I'm borrowing. Thank you, Adya. All my blessings. So we go through a lot of temporary, mini awakenings, non-abiding. In other words, you wake up and you see the oneness, you see the self writ large with all caps. You understand the limitation that the ego is just a feeble attempt at your mind to keep this sense of separation and division going. You see these things. You start to, you ponder the big questions. Who am I? What am I? Where am I? Why am I? How am I? All these are precursors to the beginnings of a journey. And this becomes more sophisticated, more understand. As you understand it, you get more deeply involved. The first thing is that there's nowhere to go. And I want to talk about abiding awakening. Abiding awakening means, permanent awakening means that you don't go back. The ego doesn't raise its head. So you really have to put the ego to rest. And then after the ego, I've talked before, becomes the spiritual ego. And that's a more subtle, it's ego in a subtle body. But it's that, I'm enlightened and I'm awakened and I'm somehow unique and special. And it's just another game the ego plays. That be careful about the battle with the ego. It's not simply dismissing. It's not simply understanding Maya. It's not simply believing or feeling that you've gone somewhere or done something or accomplished something or something special or something extraordinary, because in the truth, after you surrender, you become to love the ordinariness of it all, the special feeling that comes knowing that that we're all together. We're all bits and pieces of the essence. On your journey as an individuated drop, to go back down into the ocean of awareness, to feel the substance and everything it's made of. So anyway, abiding awakening. I'm talking about the three Buddhas today. Trikaya. Kaya is Sanskrit. Sanskrit is beautiful language. That's a name for everything, especially useful things. Trikaya, tricycle. Three Buddhas, green, red, and gold. Now, I had dug up. All of them have Sanskrit names. Each of the different Buddhas, each of the different expressions of the Buddha, of your selfhood, have names. And so I start off with the green. Green is fresh, green is growing. And when I first had my epiphany, first had my 3-day experience about reconciling, understanding the duality is love and hate, and the understanding that all these things that we thought of opposite, light, dark, tall, short, are just expressions of the same thing on different polarities. So the oneness, the true non-duality, is the green Buddha. And my experience of being the green Buddha was that I was a baby Buddha thrown on the dirty sidewalk, and I determined, I was led to understand that 6 years, each human year is 6 Buddha years. So you had the green Buddha had to grow. Now I've been in this 10 years since I was a green Buddha. So that makes it about 60, and somewhere a few years ago, I became, energy picked up. Internally became warmer, that red Buddha. The energy that flowing through my body was increasing. So I reached the secondary Buddha stage, secondary expression of a mature Buddha, ready to share to anybody. Sure enough, in my foundations, that I could begin to share to any that would be willing or interested remotely to listen. No followers, just fellow beings that happen along, that are on the same trajectory as I am, that can relate, and I can share some information. And that's what I'm doing right here. And then last year, July, the Golden Buddha, all of a sudden I noticed that my aura was gold. Just solid gold. The gold Buddha. And I realized that I could understand, finally relate to the infinite. Heretofore unthinkable. The infinite. And I felt this in the modern sense, that I could physically feel every cell in my body. I was aware of every cell in my body. And the old understanding was that each of the cells, what we call cells, is just what's called an individual Buddha, that our body is full of millions and billions, actually, of Buddhas, which in modern language probably translate to the cellular level. But I was aware. And not only the small, but I could visit the large, cosmic, the spiraling aspect of our universe, our Milky Way, and the millions and billions of other Milky Ways. So I was entertained the infinitesimal and things of huge magnitude. And my aura had become golden. And this is when I was realized that I had been gifted. The Buddha, and I'm talking about the Buddha, Gautama, had entered my body. So that's Trikaya. And I was always wondered how I was sharing with my wife about that this journey that had come to, plateau, come to a place in my journey. She says, well, we need a new goal. And I thought, no, I've lifted enough veils. The green Buddha, you lift some heavy veils, and you experience the green Buddha, you wake up and you mature, and then you lift some veils, and there's the red, things warm up, your life heats up. And it's funny, I want to mention here, that inside things begin towards the gold Buddha, everything picks up pace. Your internal life is faster. But this, ironically, to the outside observer, you appear to move slower and slower. So those that are watching me from the outside, but see this slow while I'm experiencing the tumultuous rapidity of how fast, and the heat that it's caused. It's like boiling water until it becomes vapor. It's like it's taking ice and melting it and boiling it into boiling water and moving rapidly, and steam. And all this happened in the it happened to me in the Red Buddha stage, but in the transition to just waking up one day and having a feeling this golden aura. So this is some of the irony. And sometimes there's a little bit of disconnect that comes along with the tumultuous, the rapidity, and tumultuous in a good way, in a healthy way, it's useful, but that everything, the process, as the veils lift, and the selfhood becomes more and more obvious, the Atman, its individual self, and the Brahman, the greater self, the boundless, the ocean of awareness. And then the experience, and then what? And more veils, and the veils are continually lifting. There's more and more veils to lift. And then I got into understanding Advaita Vedanta, really cemented my understanding of non-duality. But then I got introduced to another Sat Chit Ananda. It's Sat Chit Ananda. It's truth, Sat Chit, consciousness. Ananda is bliss. And it says, this is Sat Chit Ananda. And I know this is another arena to entertain. Now that the Buddha has said in my body, it's become within the realm of possibilities. Whether it happens, let me read to you how rare indeed. I have no expectations and no what will be will be. And I'm very become my blessing that I've gotten this far. I mean, Buddha's in my body. How beautiful. But some say the experience of Sat Chit Ananda is only accessible to a few advanced spiritual masters. Potentially only 20 or 30 masters have been able to reach and remain in this state.